It's one of the darkest jokes in economic history. Tragedy can kill millions, but it almost never kills opportunity. And the Black Death was no exception. Between 1347 and 1351, half of Europe vanished. Entire towns disappeared. Heirs, nobles, merchants, bankers, erased overnight. But underneath this unimaginable horror, something else was happening. Quietly, invisibly, wealth was moving. Power was shifting, and new dynasties were being born from the ashes. Welcome to the financial timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Most documentaries end with the bodies, but this is where our story begins. Because the plague didn't just take lives, it took hierarchy with it. Labor shortages shattered feudalism. Land was abandoned. Banks collapsed. Merchant networks died. And across Europe, an economic vacuum opened, a vacuum waiting for someone bold enough to step in. To understand the biggest winners, start in Florence. As plague waves returned, the city's banking giants, the Bardai, the Peruzzi, were already drowning in unpaid royal debts. The pandemic finished the job. And into this crater stepped a quiet, calculating man, Giovanni di Vixi de' Medici. Not noble, not famous, but perfectly timed. With rivals dead or bankrupt, Giovanni founded the Medici Bank in 1397. Within years, he secured lucrative contracts, including managing the Pope's finances, opportunities that would have been impossible if plague didn't wipe out the competition. Without the Black Death, the Medici might have stayed local bankers. Instead, they financed the Renaissance, ruled Tuscany, and produced popes. Yes, you could argue that Michelangelo owes part of his career to a pandemic. Now travel north to Milan. While other families died without heirs, the Visconti didn't mourn. They expanded. Bernabo Visconti absorbed abandoned estates. His successor, Gian Galeazzo Visconti, used plague chaos to consolidate an empire. In a normal era, this would take centuries of war. After the Black Death, it took one generation. When half the aristocracy collapses, being next in line becomes statistical destiny. Across England, something remarkable happened. The rise of the new gentry families, who were not noble until the plague made them rich. The Pastons bought land from neighbors who died without heirs. The de la Poles expanded through cheap property and trade. The Nevilles, later kingmakers, grew powerful as other estates vanished. These families didn't win battles. They won inheritance. The Black Death didn't just kill people, it killed bloodlines. And someone always steps in to claim what is left behind. Head east to the Baltic Sea, where the Hanseatic League, a cartel of merchant cities, turned crisis into pure profit. With grain harvests failing, workers dead, and trade collapsing, Hanseatic merchants exploited the chaos. Families like the Veckenschusens and Werendorps bought cheap grain in untouched regions and sold it at massive markups in dying cities. Timber, salt, fish. They snapped up monopolies. Half of Europe couldn't produce. The Hanseatic League could, and that made them rich. One kind of institution didn't die, even when its members did. The church. Monasteries and abbeys inherited enormous estates when families died without heirs. Panicked survivors donated land for spiritual salvation, and massive ecclesiastical estates grew quietly, steadily. In a world terrified of damnation, selling salvation was booming business. Not every winner was wealthy. Workers who survived suddenly became scarce and valuable. Wages rose. Serfs negotiated freedom guilds opened. Apprentices became masters early. For a brief moment in medieval history, ordinary people had bargaining power. A quiet revolution built not on swords, but on supply and demand. Here's the real lesson, and it is uncomfortable. Wealth doesn't disappear in a crisis. It changes hands. The Black Death, the 2008 crash, the COVID-19 pandemic. Different eras. Same mechanism. Those with liquidity, connections, and adaptability rise. Those without get erased. Crises are not equalizers. They're accelerators. The Black Death didn't just end lives, it reshaped Europe's power map. It created the Medici, empowered the Visconti, lifted the English gentry, enriched the Hanseatic League, expanded the church, and transformed the working class. The plague that seemed to end the world actually built the world that came after. Because when a system breaks, someone always steps forward. History doesn't repeat. But wealth behaves the same in every crisis. If this changed how you see the past, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.